the GSTL finals, well, the playoffs, that is, to decide who goes to the finals, and it's been a really, really cool season. We had 2 rounds, 2 different formats, and everything comes to a close here. We're going to find out which between StarTale and AZUBU goes on to face Axiom Acer in the finals.
Today we have our first match, and today the second one. And in case that we need a third one, we will have another one this Thursday. Here's Team StarTale. They, of course, want to have the title. They're starting with the Protoss player today. But to be quite frank with you, so far in the second round of the GSTL this season, StarTale pretty much embarrassed themselves quite a bit.
Yeah, not really taking any victories, and having a few rough losses as well. So this is a really, really important day for them. I think a lot of people are favoring AZUBU, who do in fact have Symbol with them back today.
Yeah, Symbol is here. On the other hand, we do not have Bomber in the studio to play for StarTale, so that's definitely a big problem. And StarTale also the only team that actually lost to Seoul in this format, so a little bit disappointing there. Well, not the only one. Seoul was also successful against AZUBU, you could say, but StarTale definitely in quite a predicament at this point.
Yeah, they really are. One of the strongest teams coming into the season, looking kind of silly when you compare them to the rest of the teams right now. They were looking like they might be able to take second place or maybe even first early on in the season, and now just barely getting their way into the playoffs, and they got to take AZUBU out here.
It's actually a little bit surprising to me, you know, when we came into the season and we were starting with the all-kill format. Of course, we knew that StarTale was able to take a few points there. They are very strong players on the lineup. They're good at preparing snipers. And then for like the first time in years, we had the Pro League format actually here, where you match up the players before the tournament, and we all thought, well, StarTale should have a little bit of an advantage here. They have a huge player pool, they have a lot of good players on their roster, so with good picks, they should be able to clinch out a victory or two. But as it turns out, they didn't win a single match in this format, and that's, to me, personally, quite surprising. I thought they would do much better than that.
I think a lot of their players just didn't come through for them when they needed to, like Life, for example, who in one day failed twice against Protoss players. And you would expect, like you said, you look at the StarTale lineup, you look at how many players they have, and you look and say, okay, well, they don't have any weak players, really. Plus, they have so many players to pick from that one of their good players is sick. You can still have a good fill-in substitute, not like Seoul, for example, where they kind of have to throw in Youngju or Last, and you're looking like, it's unfortunate. That player's probably not going to take a win. But StarTale doesn't have any players like that.
Every single season in the last few years when we were actually looking at the GSTL, we were talking about the StarTale lineup, and we always expected them to do really well back in the days when they still had like players like Parting and Squirrel, for example. Right now, though, once again, they are looking a little bit weak, especially when Bomber is not part of the lineup. It doesn't really feel like the rest of the team comes through when he's not. He's definitely like the backbone of the team, and he's have right now is something that they that is credited to their performance in the first round and not in the second round, of all things. AZUBU, on the other hand, with a really solid performance throughout both rounds, and they are currently in second spot for a good reason. They, of course, want to go up against Axiom Acer in the finals, but to achieve that, they have to take down StarTale twice.
Yeah, and so today we have the all-kill format. Now, tomorrow we will go back to the Pro League type format, and on the third and final day, if we go to that, if it's a tie, if both teams take one win, we'll go back to the all-kill format again. So this is the format that StarTale did better in. This is the format where they got their points, basically, this season.
And they definitely will have a couple of snipers prepared. Their opening player today is Panic. And we talked about Panic quite a bit, especially in the last few matchups where we were talking about him being a good starting player. This is one of the players that you really can send out that can prepare for one match to snipe an opponent. And then from there, you just are in a position where you can just react to your opponent if you lose the match. If he wins it, on the other hand, then of course you already have a bit of a lead there. But with players like Avenge as another Protoss, then you have of course the Zerg lineup for StarTale, which with its Curious and Life is pretty strong. So you have quite a few options there, and that's why the all-kill format is just so good for them.
Yeah, the all-kill format is a format where you basically want to pull out as many of your opponent's good players as you can, eliminate them, and then you have more options to choose from because your opponent doesn't know which player you're going to pick. The opposite of the Pro League format where you don't know which players they're going to pick at first. But once you see which players are picked, you prepare one strategy. There's no sniping going on. You just have to work with what you've been given. But now you kind of get the chance to choose.
Yeah. We will have a short look at the teams, of course. Once again, StarTale versus AZUBU in our first day of the playoffs today. And as you can see here, both teams with a solid amount of players in the Premier League and Challenger.
Yeah, really good players overall. StarTale's got big players like Bomber, like Life. Bomber not available at the studio for them today. AZUBU's got Symbol, really, really good Zerg player to rely on. Supernova, Sleep, and amongst other Protosses. So this is actually, if you look at the names alone, it should be a close match. StarTale just has been on a little bit of a sloppy streak, if you will. They're not like playing terribly, but they're just not getting the wins they want.
Yeah, they definitely need to step it up a little bit, especially if they want to do well in the playoffs. And here you can actually see what happens to the team, or what happened to the teams in during those seasons, in Season 1 and Season 2.
Yeah, and just giving a bit of a graphical explanation here. And with StarTale at -3 here, so it's a pretty rough second round for them, but I think they could make it to the finals. It's absolutely possible.
But you can see that all of their wins are actually in the first round, so all of the victories that they had so far, and then they were just losing game after game against Seoul and against FOYU, very close matches indeed, but still, if you lose against Seoul, and the only other victory that Seoul actually took in the second round was against AZUBU, and that was with a 4-3, when there was nothing on the line anymore, when you already knew exactly that AZUBU would end up second place this season and that Seoul was out.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure if you really can take that win,
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And that's the AZUBU right now, with a much more solid and stable graph here. They have their victories in Season 1, their victories in Season 2, so they're looking pretty solid here.
Yeah.
And only losing to Axiom Acer, basically, if you disregard this match against Seoul that I was just mentioning, that didn't really account for anything.
Exactly, and losing to Axiom Acer, no shame in that, considering they went all the way first place of the finals. No one came even close to passing them in our preseason. And if AZUBU does win this, they will have the chance to challenge them again and actually win the whole thing. So Axiom Acer is, of course, watching this best of 3 with great anticipation, trying to get some information about what the players are going to be doing, get some, figure out what type of snipers they might be using.
Yeah, for me personally, I feel that StarTale has a responsibility to the fans today, because they were really just disappointing a little bit in the last few matches, and they have a ton of foreign fans out there that are rooting for the team, cheering for them and supporting them. And it's very important that they make a good showing today, that the players are really on a tip-top shape and are showing their best, that they have good strategies prepared. Because this is the format where they are much more comfortable in, that they are familiar with.
Yeah.
So I expect big things today.
I do as well.
Even without Bomber, they have to step it up right now. They have a big lineup. I mean, we can see it here right in front of us. They need to show us today that they are capable of winning the GSTL, that they are capable of going to the finals, and that they are worthy of being here in the playoffs.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about big names for each race. For Terran, you've really got Bomber, and you have Hack. There's not much else to say there. Curious and Golden, as well as Life, are the really top Zergs, but Pet is somebody you might be able to rely on in a sniping situation. And as for Protoss, I don't think we're going to see anybody but Avenge. I think he's going to be the man that StarTale wants, and they've already shown him here. Panic may come out, maybe, but I think that Avenge might be all we see today when it comes to Protoss.
Panic, there's a pretty high chance that Panic comes out today because he's the starting player.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
I was thinking Avenge was the starting player. I totally botched that.
No, I can actually tell you exactly why you thought that, because we have a bit of a preview here in the studio, and earlier they were using the picture of Avenge as the starting
that's right.
player.
Okay, yeah, that
and
tricked
not
me.
Panic, so that is an honest mistake there.
The funny thing is, when I saw it, I was like, oh, I thought it was Panic, but it must be Avenge. I saw the preview.
Yeah,
oh,
that
wow.
was a little bit confusing for a moment. So
okay, well, so
you're not to blame for that one.
So I think we're going to see both in that case. I didn't expect to see Panic today, but now that he's there, I think Avenge is definitely something they're going to rely on later because they don't have Bomber. Here's the AZUBU lineup. Symbol definitely going to come out last, I feel. It's something he always does. You've got Supernova, though, too, who could come out to end things up. We're starting things off with Ragnarok.
Yeah, Ragnarok, they're going to be our starting player for Team AZUBU, which means that we are looking at a Zerg versus Protoss in game number 1. Of course, you have Patience there as well. We have Boom Boom. A lot of strong players that they definitely have in their roster. And keep in mind that they won against StarTale already twice, in the first and in the second round. So StarTale has to... They really, really have to step it up today. And it's not going to be easy without Bomber.
Yeah. I'm talking about Patience, specifically the Protoss player. He did get the chance to come out as Ace to get a revenge match against Deer. It did not work for him. He lost both matches, so using him today might be something to think twice about, especially if it comes to a Protoss versus Protoss. But he's a good kid, he's a good player, and as long as he's not playing against one of the best players in the world, he might actually be able to take that point.
You know, personally, if I have a player like Patience on my roster, what I would do as the coach is like look at someone of the not of the strongest StarTale players, but one of the players that they use quite often, and then try to prepare him as a sniper.
Yeah.
You could even use him against someone like Avenge if you are very confident in his PvP abilities.
He practiced it a lot, you know.
Exactly, he practiced it against Deer. He lost against Deer twice, but there's no shame in that. If you really feel that his PvP usually is a lot stronger than this, he might be a potential sniper for a player like Avenge. Or you just look at the StarTale lineup and you say, well, if Pet, for example, comes out, then we have a sniper possibility right there, and other players can prepare for the big guns.
Yeah. You know, maybe even somebody like Curious, if he's really feeling up to it, he could maybe try to go for Curious. Don't want to go for Life, don't want to go for Bomber. Of course, Bomber not being here today, that's not going to be an issue for them. This should be really, really good, though. It's been a while since we've seen the all-kill format, and for that reason alone, I'm pretty excited, because I do like the dynamic that it creates between matches where you have to make a split decision about who you want to snipe and who you think can get multiple wins.
I personally really like the choice for the first player that we see today for Team AZUBU. Going with Ragnarok is, in my opinion, a really good choice. And it's actually kind of interesting to see how Zerg-heavy AZUBU is when it comes to the choice of a first player. Ragnarok started several times for them this season, and so did Boom Boom and also Sleep. So quite often they actually go with Zergs in match number 1, which is of course also a little bit dependent on the map. Talking about maps, map number 1 is going to be Fruitland today.
Yeah, Fruitland is going to be map number 1, so starting things off with a splash of fruits.
Yeah. A lot of vitamin C in that game.
Yeah, vitamin C. A lot of vitamins in general in fruits. Not that I would know.
Avenge at the top here, and of course we have once again on the bench for AZUBU Supernova. Symbol is there too. This is the man of the hour. We have Ragnarok in the picture now. Our starting player next to Patience. That was of course Center on Ragnarok.
Former TSL players, getting them all mixed up. There's so many TSL players floating around there still doing really well. Hyun included. Recent results pretty impressive overseas. So this is going to be a pretty intense match. It's all about pick versus pick and who gets ahead, because you get a lot of momentum in the all-kill format. And you don't know exactly where that momentum is going to take you, because you don't know exactly where your opponent's going to be. If you are playing in the Pro League format and you're 0-2, you at least know, okay, our third and fourth players are like this. We know exactly how we can prepare for this and kind of get them pumped up. And in this case, when you take a win, you just never know who's going to come out next. You can predict, but you can never be sure.
Yeah, especially with a AZUBU coach, you never know who really is going to
That's so true.
Next. Like, he's a little bit crazy, and I mean that in the best way possible. On the other hand, with StarTale, I mean, I've said it already, and I want to say it again. I feel that StarTale is going to show us today what they're made of. They need to really have someone step it up, and this could be, of course, Life. But I think it's someone else, too. Life is one of the players that, of course, the coach looks at and he's like, okay, listen, buddy, you have to deliver. Well, you need at least one win, and to be quite frank with you, I expect not only one, I expect at least 2 wins out of you. But they need someone else, and that someone else might be a player like Avenge, it might be Curious, but they need a few people to really step it up and to show that even with Bomber not being there, that they can do it. Hack, the last time that we saw him, he got a little bit unfortunate with the a player that he faced. He was going up against Innovation, and that was, of course, not the easiest match for him. Yeah. Innovation is just he's a jack of all trades. Like, he is so good in every matchup that you throw him at, and it's basically like impossible for a player that, let's face it, Hack is a level beyond him.
Yeah, he is definitely.
For him to beat him, it's just difficult.
Exactly. You would put Innovation against anybody who's not exactly on his level, and they probably won't scratch the surface. They won't even make him feel, like he's going to break a sweat at all. So, could see Hack come out today just because he's the Terran filler for the team as Bomber is gone.
And our starting players today, as we mentioned before, with the Zerg versus Protoss, we're going to start things off. And guys, before we jump into this match here today, I want to give a quick shout out to everyone who's watching right now, all the viewers out there, Team Liquid, of course, as well as Reddit, and also to Team Dead Gaming for all the support. Here we have Panic, on the other hand, our Protoss player for Team StarTale, starting things off today for them. Yep. And he's actually, he's a good choice as a starting player. I like him as a starting player because you have 2 Protoss in the lineup, and if you want to use a Protoss, and you don't want to use Avenge as a starting player, that's what I'm basically trying to say here, because he's so strong by now that you can snipe people with him. He's not only the all-rounder that is good in the first position, but he's also a very, very good sniper. So I like the idea of putting Panic out today and playing a little bit more reactionary.
Yeah, it's true, and if you put Panic out, then he leaves open all the rest of the strong StarTale players. You can't, like, for example, had they put Avenge out, like, alright, Avenge is one of their better players, now we can prepare for the map because we know the map that he's going to be on and snipe him, and that's one of their top players gone. But now Avenge is still out there, Life is still out there, so they've got this good all-around player who's not somebody they're worried about later on a map pick. So it's pretty good for them to have that there, just to keep the rest of the players unknown. And Ragnarok, I feel, is the exact same way as starting for AZUBU. Really good all-around Zerg player, takes some decent wins here and there, and he's not somebody that you're going to want to expect to snipe later, and it just keeps the lineup a bit of a mystery.
He's also pretty decent against Protoss in general, and that's definitely a point in AZUBU's favor here. I feel both players could really take the match. Panic also not too shabby against Zerg, lost against Sleep, Head and Zero, but has a couple of really nice wins under his belt too. So this could be a good opening match. Both teams a little bit more passive, not going for the best players in the lineup, but solid players out there as a starting choice, and they of course have a lot of time to prepare too, something that has to be considered here as well. So the opening match, of course, starting to set the pace of the entire team match a little bit, but I feel that even with a loss, both teams have a lot of options here.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. This is going to be the match that sets the precedent, that gets the ball rolling for one of these two teams, and we're going to see our map picks come out. And the fun thing about this is because neither of these two players are super high profile for their teams, the player that comes out next is probably just going to be one who's good in the matchup. But the question is, who is that going to be? Are they going to send out a bigger name like Curious, for example, if Panic falls here? Or are they going to start using somebody like Hack?
You know, in terms of storyline, I would personally love a victory from StarTale today, because Bomber will probably join us for some of the next few matches. Yeah. And if StarTale now kind of breaks this curse a little bit, that is even, not really a curse, but like this losing streak that they have against AZUBU and also in the second round of the GSTL, then it would have put a lot of pressure on AZUBU. And I feel that AZUBU is definitely one of the strongest teams that we have this season, disregarding XC Mesa for a second. But that would put pressure on them and would definitely make especially the second round a lot more exciting.
For sure. Fruitland, like you mentioned before, is our map. We've got 2 lemons on the map, each worth 500 minerals. They respawn after a number of minutes. You can take them again. Whoever has map control can grab those minerals basically for free. And of course, it creates an interesting dynamic in this map. And in this matchup in particular, the map is relatively open, and it can go really, really late game in PvZ.
Yeah, it definitely can. It comes down to the players now finally realizing that you can use the map control can be used so well to get these lemons and the extra minerals, and this is something that players realize more and more. We've seen even rushes against the lemons now at the end of the season, whereas at the beginning both players were usually quite reluctant to really go for that. So it's something that is being realized a lot more. So we might have a demonstration of that today later on, but for now, of course, we're jumping into game number 2, ladies and gentlemen, here at our first playoff match, day 1. It is StarTale versus AZUBU, and Protoss versus Zerg to start things off today. Here in Foodland, we have Panic now going up against Ragnarok at the GSTL playoffs. Starting to the top right, we currently see our Protoss starting player for Team StarTale. It is
StarTale, Panic.
Panic, definitely a really good choice as a starting player here. A player that had a couple of really nice victories this season, especially against XC Mesa. Now we have him up against the Zerg player, starting to the bottom left of the map. This is, of course, the Zerg starting things off for Team AZUBU.
AZUBU Ragnarok.
Ragnarok, such a great player for TSL. Potential never fully realized. He bounced between LGIM and now ends up here in AZUBU, his final resting team for now. And he's up against a Forge-oriented opening coming out from Panic. Looks like it's going to be a Nexus first, as he's not started the Forge yet. And on Fruitland, this is a pretty good build.
Yeah, it's definitely a good one. I mean, the thing is, with a Forge opening, you're always just really safe. You want to play it a bit more defensive and not go for the early aggression against the Zerg player. It's something that you can do. It gives you a good boost in economy, and you will definitely have the resources that you need. And you know, again, on a map like this, I actually like it. I mean, both openings are valid. It's more of a matter of style and preference.
Really true. The ramp, leads down to a relatively easy to wall off choke point. And with that, it's pretty easy to get the wall up, not worry about any pressure. And it looks like we are going to have double hatch before pool coming out from Ragnarok. So a very economy-based build, and against the build he's facing, this is exactly what he wants.
Yeah, at the same time, though, it could be a bit risky. He needs one of the Overlords over there, and he has already the first Overlord in a very nice position. Sorry, the second Overlord in a pretty decent position that can spot the probe. The first one realized now also that he's up against the Forge opening, so I wouldn't be surprised if he sends out a drone to just check that third base to be safe. But he feels pretty confident that he knows exactly how many probes there are currently in the game or on the map, and Panic will definitely not scout what's going on. He doesn't send anything out, and Ragnarok gets away with his build.
Yeah, gets away with it.
There comes the drone, though. He's sending it out after all, just having a quick look there as well. Third so far. No, actually just the Eco Slide, sorry. I missed the headshot there first.
Yeah, had he sent it to the third base, it would have just been to check, but he has an Overlord also seeing that no secondary probe went out, and I think he is kind of thinking, alright, I don't think there's a probe out there, because I didn't see one. Could be the case that one hit and got by, but not a massive risk here by Ragnarok, but had that third baseman cannon, that would have been a big problem.
Pretty good opening here for Ragnarok, and Ragnarok with 15 maps played in this matchup in Heart of the Swarm is 9-6, so he has a 60% win ratio, with recent wins against Wangshin, Swagger and a Sickness, whereas Panic has a 53% win ratio with 13 maps played against Zerg offline in Heart of the Swarm. And the build that he chose, of course, a pretty solid one if you want to have the good economy early on, but at the same time it delays the attack a little bit. And this is just one of those styles that has really been mapped out in timings, especially by Zerg players, of course. They know exactly what to do and when to do it. And if you go for a double hatch before pool and you don't get scouted at all, you feel great. You feel on top of the world.
Yeah. It looks like Panic is just playing a style where he thinks no matter what my opponent's build is, my build is pretty good against it. It's pretty solid as long as I transition appropriately, because he is not scouted at all. He's going straight into the Stargate, hides it in the main, and he is not he's not planning for anything his opponent's doing until he sees it later, I guess, with his first Phoenixes.
That's the mentality that quite a few players have. If you think about the European scene for a second, Show is one of those players that has stated in the interview several times that one of the reasons why he didn't scout for a long time in the game was because he thought, my build is so good, whatever my opponent does, I will be fine. And if you rush me, I'll be okay. If you play the macro game, I'll also be okay. And then in the early mid game, that's when I start scouting, because up to this point, I feel everything that is being thrown against me is being countered by how I open.
Yeah. Well, we have a Robotics going down here, and he's hitting both. The Overlord will finally come in and see the Stargate to the top right, but will not see the Robotics. And I think that the Overlord will see the first Phoenix. Yeah, so the Phoenix is also shown, and he knows exactly what's going on. He could have also, of course, just looked at the Stargate to see what was coming out. But what comes out of the Robo next is really going to determine a lot. If he just makes an Observer, it'll be very clear he wants to take a third base. If it's an Immortal, though, everything is going to be different, and this is something that Ragnarok will want to scout as soon as possible. He just doesn't even know about the Robo. That's his biggest problem.
Yeah, and talking about knowing information, we still don't see any scouting information from Panic, which is definitely an issue. And Ragnarok knows about the timings that could potentially hit him. He started off with a decent drone count, is now even going up to 60. He's losing a bunch of Overlords here, and this is of course a little bit annoying. He was earlier supply blocked a little bit after losing the first one, but immediately completed the additional ones, and also right now we see him with more and more Overlords. But he's going to be supply blocked in a few seconds. Starting his upgrades in his tech on the other hand, so it's not going to be too difficult, but he needs to be careful about, as you already mentioned, the second phase of Panic's two-step process that he has here.
Yeah, he's going into Robotics Bay, which can be for multiple things. I mean, he could take a third base with it, but since he's not making any more probes, he's getting an Immortal first. He's at 46 probes. Looks like it's going to be the build I like to call Plan X, where it's just a really very specific timing with Immortals and Colossi. Well, just one Immortal most of the time, but sometimes two. And it can be really tough to defend if you don't see it coming. If you do see it coming, you have to rely on flanks. You can't get Corruptors out in time. It's not going to be the answer that you want.
Yeah, I'm really curious how exactly he's going to deal with this. We have the Phoenix is still trying to cause some trouble and also shutting down the scouting information of the Zerg player, and he's doing a really good job at that. In this game now, the lemons that we talked about earlier before the game started don't really come into play, since we do not have this like massive commitment by the Zerg player to dominate the map at the beginning. He was playing like very economy based, and the same thing we see for Panic. He's very focused on his own build here and doesn't try to establish map dominance with the Gateway army. He instead is now getting up the gateways to just push out with the right timing. That as soon as like the range is completed for the Colossi is going to hit. 2 Colossi range, he will have the Immortal there as well. This is a pretty difficult push to stop. we have only Roaches and Hydralisks at the disposal of Ragnarok, so he has to be very careful here. He has no anti-amp.
And he has mostly Hydras too. Only a few Roaches out on the map. He's making 12 Hydras now. They will have +1, but so will the Colossi of Panic. He has one forward pile, not very forward.
I like what Panic did here too. He sent the Zealot out just to secure the Xel'Naga Watchtower before he starts his move out, to make sure that nothing can be spotted here. Before that we had Zerglings at those towers, but Ragnarok is now blind and Panic is moving out, so good position, even missed by those Zerglings. Great positional play here by Panic. Pretty sure that was intended, but he sees now the first Colossus and he should have an inkling of what's going on. That Spire on the other hand,
Spire's not the answer.
Gonna help him. I
think he must have started it before he saw. There's no way he would have started that after seeing this. And it's not going to be helpful at all. It's not going to be done in time, first of all, and even if it were, he's not going to be able to get enough Corruptors out. It's all about the force fields here.
He's moving in. Look at that worker count as well, 71 to 46. Panic is kind of all in here. He needs to do damage. If he doesn't do damage, if this does not do anything, then he's going to lose that game most likely. The force field at the front is good. The Roach is still trying to buffer a little bit. We have two Colossi with range and that one Immortal dancing there. But Ragnarok is trying to buy himself a bit of time, trying to get the better position here. Force fields, on the other hand, could definitely put a stop to that.
Yeah, force fields here really, really good. He's starting to work away at the drones, and basically Ragnarok is doing the dance of death here. He's trying to buy a little bit more time to just get his army beefed up. There's the time warp. A little bit of a flank here is blocked by force fields.
And he's buying himself a lot of time here. He's always dancing back and forth, just trying to delay his opponent for as long as possible. Even if he loses a base, he could make up for that, maybe. But right now, the army supply 91 against 72 in favor of Ragnarok. But his army is just not able to contest this. He's sacrificing the third base. He realized this is something that he cannot hold. Moves back, still waiting for the speed upgrade for the Roach. We have the +2 attack upgrade also not done.
He's
and
massively
more
supply blocked too, Calor. He's losing a lot of these units in the Larva. Warp Prism at the front going to take some damage here, it looks like. And here come those Phoenix, just going to lift up a few of the Hydras. And one Colossus is targeted down. No micro here.
The second one is in danger, and he's also going down. At the front we have the Immortal, and the Immortal is also dead and dying. And the rest of the units are moving in, but reinforcements for Panic just warped in a couple of seconds ago. The Stalkers are doing their best here. They don't have the blink upgrade, so they can't really micro a whole lot. And with all the DPS that we have out of the Hydralisk, he is forced back, taking the third base down, but now pushed back by his Zerg opponent.
Yep. Losing that Warp Prism was kind of a problem for getting reinforcements right up in the front, and this is basically going to be it, because now what can Panic hope to do? Yes, he killed the base. Yes, he did eliminate a lot of the Harvesters, but he has no tech. I mean, all he can do is try to fall back on Immortals and Colossi to take his own third.
Yeah, the third base now coming in for Ragnarok, and they still have the same Harvester count. This is, of course, something that Panic could accomplish here. Just killing a lot of the Harvesters of Ragnarok since the third base was under fire for so long. And he definitely took a bit of the momentum of Ragnarok away here and didn't allow the Zerg player to completely snowball. But Panic is still in a position where he can try to make it work, and it looks currently like he just wants to go for a second attack. He's emphasizing the Immortal composition now quite heavily. Moving out with one probe, not quite sure if he's really going to take that base, but it looks like he wants to try and take one and then just expand again.
Yeah.
No, not really.
He's definitely... Oh, he could take a hidden base maybe.
Maybe just gets a forward pile because he doesn't probe up, he doesn't build any Harvesters.
Just a Warp Prism.
Kind of lets me to believe that we will maybe just see a second move out. And that's also what the Overseer is just now scouting. Speed upgrade for the Hydralisk, on the other hand, is halfway completed and should be done by the time that Panic arrives at the bottom left of the map.
This army composition is terrible for Panic. He doesn't have a lot of Stalkers. He's mostly Zealots against 17 Roaches. Those Zealots are basically just going to tank a tiny bit of damage and be useless.
4 sentries. There's not a lot of force field potential in that. If he hits the perfect force field, it's going to be a different story. There's a lot of army supply on the other hand, but he is 70 army supply against 92, which kind of indicates already that Ragnarok has quite the lead here. And don't forget that him being on the high ground against the choke point gives him an edge as well.
Yeah, the Zealots are at the back. This is never going to work. He tries to force field here, but he only works against himself. The Zealots just can't accomplish anything here. He even has a little bit of creep on that Overlord. I mean, the concave here is perfect. Speed is done, as you said.
Oh, and the Warp Prison is nearly going to be sniped, and yep, there it is. He snipes the Warp Prison. No more Warp-ins, and he just goes down the ramp. Ragnarok on his way to victory, pushing the Protoss player back, dropping down to 34 army supply, and this is going to be game. Ragnarok is definitely going to take this victory right here for AZUBU and claiming the 1-0 for his team.
Yep, definitely no question about that. The last of the Stalkers start to fall here. A good idea by Panic, one of the riskier builds. Not a build probably Ragnarok expected on this map, but he scouted it, he was patient, and that's all she wrote. 117 to 55 supply here. What is Panic going to do? I mean, it looks like he's just going to sit at home and warp in more units, but he is going to fall eventually.
Yeah, what we really needed to see for Panic here were better force fields in the first few fights, cutting half of Ragnarok's army off maybe, or just small chunks that he can deal with. But this did not happen. And here we have the GG now, as AZUBU takes game number 1. Symbol, proud of Ragnarok, his former TSL co-player. So that was actually a really decent game here. Panic with a good strategy.
What is this?
I have no idea, but I love it.
How did he get into that? Oh, that's Boom Boom in the suit.
Alright, the ceremony award might be, MMA might have now a new challenger.
Well, that's not even Ragnarok, that's just Boom Boom. What is he doing in there? And is that supposed to be a tomato?
I have no idea.
Or a carrot or something? But you know, I like it.
I like it, but I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a carrot?
Yeah, I think it could be. It's like he's dangling a carrot in front of StarTale's face.
I have no clue what that's supposed to be, but it's awesome.
Well, StarTale is not looking very happy right now on the other side of things. It was a good timing, it did not work. And AZUBU's crossing off names right now on the list of players they have to face.
You know, the push was pretty strong. He just didn't get the force fields that he wanted. We had so much patience out of Ragnarok just waiting on top of that ramp, sacrificing the third base when he realized he couldn't do anything. But for him, the most important part was buying himself some time to really get the army into the picture. And you know, you raised actually a good point in the first fight when the third was already gone. We didn't see any micro on those Colossi.
Yeah.
He just let them stay there, and they both died to like small flanks. The same happened in the last fight when the Warp Prism was flying in, and it was so exposed that Ragnarok immediately started to focus it down with a couple of Hydralisks.
And of course, if you guys had any doubts about what I said earlier, it is in fact Boom Boom in the suit. There's the great reveal. Well, who do you think it's going to be? I feel like it could be, they could actually send Curious out here and do a ZVZ, and then he's a pretty good all-around player no matter what matchup he faces.
Could be. The only... I mean, one of the reasons that I could see why you don't want to send Curious out now is maybe they are so confident in his abilities that they're saying, alright, we're going to send you out as soon as Symbol appears. That could be something
that's a good point.
That we might see today. So, depends on a little bit on who they are trying to put up for a sniper. I feel the two players that you prepare snipers for in the AZUBU lineup are definitely Supernova and then also, of course, Symbol.
I feel like Avenge is for Supernova. If I had to guess, I would pick Avenge for Supernova, just because he's shown in the past really good PvT. He's taken great games of big names as well, so I think that's what they want to use for Supernova. But yeah, who are they going to use for Symbol when he comes out?
I mean, the question also is, like, do you send out someone like Hack? We had now a new patch coming in, so Widow Mines are definitely not as strong before as they were before, and that affects the Zerg versus Terran matchup a lot, so I'm not quite sure what kind of results he currently gets in the team house. Might be one of the players that are considering to send out. But against Ragnarok, that's the plan B that now comes into play.
Yeah.
So it's really tough to predict, and I personally think if you have to send your plan B out, you don't go for a big name. You usually have someone like an intermediate player. The thing with Plan B is, like, you always try to find some kind of solution in case your first player loses. And that player can also prepare for the first player of your opponent. So right now, I don't think it's going to be someone like Pat, because it's going to be a Zerg versus Zerg again. Maybe not him. It's actually pretty tough to predict, to be honest.
I think it's really tough, but if I had to guess, I would say Curious. If they had Bomber, I would say, like, just if he was here in general, I would say it's absolutely Curious, but because he's not there, I feel like it's a little bit tougher to decide. Could be Life as well, don't count him out here.
It's Hack.
Hack is going to stand up and do it.
So it's going to be Hack. As I just said, the results must be pretty decent, but I like this choice because Hack is a good choice against the Zerg player, and he seems to be the plan B that they have there. If you think about it, like, would you send Hack out to take down Symbol? Not really. Win against Supernova? Maybe, but not quite. So I feel right now he's a very solid choice. Curious would also have been a good choice if you really want to go in a ZVZ, but he might be a player that is safe to face someone like Symbol or even Supernova. The thing is, if you don't send out Hack, you're kind of forced to send Avenge out. Because if you don't send one of those four players out, you don't send out Light. Right?
No.
That's not someone that you want. You don't send out Pet, I feel, because even if Pet wins this game, is he really going to be the player who wins 2 in a row? I don't think so. Hack is definitely a very solid choice, and also a player that can not only be successful against Ragnarok, but then maybe also take another win.
Well, we are going to go into a 5-minute break before we see if Hack can break the Ragnarok, so stay tuned.